So we're coming out of winter now and heading into spring, and this is the time of year I turn my attentions away from all the silverfish fishing I've been doing and now concentrating on trying to catch some carp. The carp are definitely starting to get active now, the temperature's up a little bit, and the last few matches I fished there's been lots and lots of carp hooked. So in this video today I'm going to show you one of the best ways of targeting early season carp. So let's get some kits sorted and check it out. Right, so let's check out the bait. Super simple. 2 lots of hard pellets. I've got some hard 6mm there and some hard 4mm. If you're ever in doubt this time of the year what bait to start on, you'll never go far wrong with hard pellets. Such a good way of catching fish. Normally it's an instant start, so you can just tap a few pellets in and get a really quick response. I don't think you can really do that with many other baits. So if you're sort of thinking, oh, should I go with meat, corn, ground bait, I would always just start with pellets. We're going to target them out in the lake, sort of 13 or 14 metres. I've got a couple of rigs set up here, and there's a couple of different ways of feeding. So let's check out the rigs quickly, look at the feeding, and then we can get in and try and catch some carp. So when it comes to feeding pellets, there's sort of 2 ways I like to feed them. The first one is old trusty Kinder style pots that are constantly on the end of your pole. I've got a small one and a medium. Obviously I'll kick off that small one with a few 4mm in there, but what I've done, I'll show you that, same as what I done when I was fishing casters in the winter. I've just cut out the holes, so there's enough there to keep them in so they don't bounce out, but then you can still sprinkle them in. I've done that on both the pots, so that's sort of your standard way of starting. Like one of them with some 4mm, tap it in, and then depending how the fishing's going, if you need a little bit more bait, a bigger one, and obviously if you're on the back foot, still a little bit cold, maybe the smaller one. You can go a whole session with just using them, and I've done that loads of times. But one other deadlier way of catching them, which is probably my favourite way, is when you're pinging a few pellets with a catapult, with a lighter strung out rig, flicking a few pellets, making a little bit more noise and a bit more spread of bait, and then just laying your rig through the pellets can be an absolutely deadly way of catching them, especially now when the carp are walking up, they're responding a little bit more to noise. So that's a brilliant way, and I'm sure today we'll catch a few on both, but hopefully towards the end of the session that'll be a nice way of catching them. And rig wise, we've got 2 rigs up. We've got one positive rig, so what I've got a long kit, I've got some grey hydro. I don't want anything too soft, because what I don't like doing when I'm playing carp is pulling loads of elastic out, having my top kit bent double. That's where you get breakages. So mainline, nice durable 017 end gauge on there. I use end gauge for all my rig line. So I've got 2 back shots there, they are just micro cubes, and then my favourite floats then, I've got a 0.4 bobby there, carbon, nice 1.8 slow on that, carbon stem, that's a 0.4, and then on this rig, this is for when I'm starting my session and just tapping a few pellets in on like a, almost like a dinner plate kind of thing. So I want all my rig, I'm not looking to try and catch them, through the water on the drop. You'll just be tapping some pellets in, a little mound of pellets on the bottom, and I want to hold my rig right over those pellets. So because of that, I've just got a bulk of number 9s there, and then 6 inch below that, I've got one number 9 dropper, then I've just got a 4 inch hook length, that's 0.15 end gauge, and then I've just got an 18s SLWG there. I'll just show you that a bit nicer. SLWG 18s, and then just a little micro bait band on there. So that's the rig we're going to start on. And then, as I said earlier on, when we start feeding with a catapult and you want to fish through the water a little bit, I've got the same. I've got grey hydro through a long end, 017 mainline, 2 back shots again, but this time I've just got a little 0.2 carbon bobby that on there. And then I've got, because it's still probably 4.5 foot, I've got 6 number 10s. So just not reverse taper like our other rigs, just like shirt button style if you want, just spread out equally all the way down to a 6 inch hook length on that one, same 015 18s hook and a little pellet band. So to start the session, we'll start on that heavier rig with our little pot, sprinkle a few in, see what kind of response we get. If it don't happen to start with and we want to draw some fish in, that's when you're going to pick the catapult up. And you can even sort of marry the 2 together. You can feed a few pellets with a catty, you'll get a little bit of a spread and a bit of noise, and then just over the little spot you fish in, have a little pot and just sprinkle a few, just so you'll have a nice little tight area of bait for the fish to home in on. But we start like this, let's see how we get on. Just one more point when you're fishing pellets, it's not a kind of a bait you really lay much line on the bottom with. So what I've got there, I plumbed up these geese be quiet for a second. You can see my little bit of tape there. The tape is where dead depth is, and then my rig is literally a body over depth. So when you're plumbing up, I just sort of plumb up so I've got that much sticking out the water. That's my starting point. I'll always start like that. Today is flat calm, not a breath of wind, so I think if these geese go by here, you might be able to see them. There you are. Making a hell of a racket. Like I said, it's flat calm today, so that's an absolutely perfect starting point. If it was really towing hard, maybe you could put a little bit more on the bottom, but as a starting point, we'll go with that, and then everything should be just right. So let's get shipped out, tap some pellets in, and hopefully have a nice day of catching some nice big chunky springtime carp. Right, so we're going to start the session now. I'm going to start on a 0.4 rig. Like I said earlier, little pot. Now this is quite a big lake, so it might take a little bit of time for it to happen. It's not like a really small commercial where the fish are sort of always in front of you, but I'm sure we still catch a few. What I'm going to start, I'm going to pick out like a small 6mm, that sort of size, and I'm going to start by feeding 4s, see how we get on. If there are quite a few little like nuisance skimmers and bits and pieces in here, then we can always step up and just feed a few 6s. I think we're going to have these geese in front of us all day, but that's what we've got to put up with. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to probably feed like that many 4mm to start, just in my little pot. So that is probably going to be, we'll have a look now, 3/4 of a small pot. You can see there. So that's our starting point. Look at my far bank marker. There's like a tree sticking up on the far bank right on the point. So I'm lined up with that. I'm plumbed up to the bottom of the body, so everything's right. It might take a little while to get a bite, but let's just ship out. Pellets can be like a really instant bait. So we'll just see what happens with this first feed. And while we're fishing, we can sort of work it out whether we want to be feeding 4s, 6s, with the pot, with the carty, heavy rig, light rig, and then draw some conclusions for the end of the day. So let's get shipped out and see if we can get one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start at 13. It's a nice distance. I don't need to go straight out as long as possible. I'd rather start a little bit short, and if I need to, I can work my way further out towards the fish if they are sat out there. So I've got my far bank marker there. I'm just going to sprinkle these in from probably like 2 foot. So just tap them in. Nice little area of bait there. Lift my rig out. And then just lay it in. Let it all straighten out. And just lay it straight in over those pellets. And hopefully now, that little bit of noise, a little bit of bait falling through the water will have drawn an odd carp. If there's an odd carp in the area, it won't be too long before we start getting a few indications and a nice fish on the bank. So now it's just a case, sitting patiently, keeping an eye on the time. You know, you don't want to be sitting in there for half an hour for nothing. So I'll just keep an eye on the time, keep an eye on any indications. Right, so we've been sat in there probably 10 minutes now without an indication. So what I'm going to do, put a fresh pellet on. Again, like a small size 6mm. Sort of like that there. And I'm going to refeed another sort of 3/4 of a small pot. Just try and get a little bit of noise and a little bit of bait falling through the water, trying to attract an odd fish in. I'll give this another sort of 15-20 minutes, and if this don't start working, then I think I'm going to pick the catapult up and just ping like 4 and 5 pellets every now and then. I just want to get some fish in my peg to start with, and then we can work out the best way to catch them. So let's just try this again. I'm going to dunk my pot, stop any pellets bouncing out on the way out. And again, just hold my pot probably like 3 foot off the water. Just tap them in. rig straight over the top of it. Let it all straighten up, so it's all in a straight line, then just lower it in. Oh, so there's a bite. So that's taken about 3 feeds now to get a bite. Just a nice little jab on the floor. So you can see the grey hydra there. It's not, it's how I want it really. It's not, I'm not getting dragged around everywhere. I want to hook them, getting in control of them. Nice. First one of the session. Nice flat commoner. Hold him up to you. You are, look. Lovely. Hooked lovely there as well. So I'm going to stick with this just for a couple more feeds, see what happens. But I'm just kind of thinking I need a little bit more traction. So I'll have 2 more feeds with this, see if I catch one. If I don't, I think I'm going to start picking that catapult up because it's such a big expanse of water this is. I feel like I need to draw some fish into my peg. You know, it's nice and mild. The carp, I've seen an odd one topping around the place, so they are active. They should be looking for some grub, so maybe just tapping a few pellets in isn't quite right today. But I'll just stick with it for another, you know, sort of 40 minutes. And then I can make a move. I know I don't want to start pinging it too early and having pellets going everywhere. But I can just sort of see what's happening now off these next couple of feeds. If it's still not great, then I'm definitely going to pick that catapult up. So, same thing again. What I'll do this time, I'll just fill this pot right to the top because I feel as if you can give them a little bit of bait. Because I have, every time I've sort of fed, I've had a little indication. So that's what I'm going to do now. Again, from a height. Rattle them in. As much attraction as I can get, and then just lower my rig in amongst all that loose feed. Hold the float out so it's all nice and straight, and then just drop them in. There we go. Now, I don't know if you've seen then, but I just sort of lifted and dropped that like a float length out the water, just to lift that pellet up off the bottom, because what I've noticed is every time I fed, when my rig's in, I've had a little response. So just by moving that pellet like sort of 8 inches off the bottom, let it fall back in. But even though this isn't bad at the minute, I still feel like we should be catching more than what we are. So what I'm going to do now is pick up that other rig. Pick up that other rig and start pinging a few hard 6mm. I really think that's going to be the way to catch them today. Oh, this is a clonker. Oh boy. I mean, look at that. On hard pellets. Don't get much better than that. Okay, so after those couple of fish, potting those pellets in, I've just picked up my little lighter rig. This is our little 0.2 bobby with just some 10 strung out. I really think this is going to be the way to catch them, because it seems like every time I feed, I'm having a little response on my float, and I've got to sort of lift and drop the rig to get a bite. So with this little rig, we can just keep lifting out and laying it in, pinging some pellets, making some noise. And I reckon this is going to be money when we get going on this. So again, a small size 6mm, but now I'm just going to sort of ping, you know, 4 to 6 pellets around the float, just gauging how often to feed them by the response we're getting. So we're not going to like leather it to start. We just ping 4 or 5, lift and drop a little bit, 4 or 5, lift and drop, and see how we go from there. But I think this is going to be the way to catch them. So with this rig, it's a case of lifting it all the way out, laying it in line with the marker, pick up a catty, I fancy these 6mm, they just make a little bit more noise. So I've got like 5 things in the sling there, and then just ping them around the float. And then when that float trims up, we let it sit there for a little bit. And then we can start lifting and dropping it. You know, lift it out 18 inches, lower it back in. Lift it out like that. Back in. And already I feel like I want to ping a few more pellets. So I'm going to put another 4 or 5 in the pouch. Ping them in. Little dink then. There we go. There's a bite pinging those pellets, but I'm not sure if that one's hooked quite right, but no, that one's foul up. That is a bit of a, that can happen when you pick the catapult up because you're drawing more and more fish into your peg. So, just a case of baiting up now again. Perhaps I'm feeding a little bit too often at the minute. So maybe I need to feed 2 lots of pellets and then put the catapult down rather than sort of pinging little and often. So we'll just try that. This time we'll just ping 2 lots of pellets and then sit there. So flick the rig out past. One lot of pellets. And another lot, and then I'll just sit here now for a couple of minutes. Because if I'm not too careful and I'm loose feeding too often, as I think, then the fish are going to be at all levels. But I think it feels like I need to feed some bait to get some fish in the peg to start with. So it's just a case of tinkering around with your feeding now. So I'll just try that more positive feeding, feed twice and then just leave it for a second. There we go. Just see there, probably lifted that rig 18 inches and then just laid it back in slowly. As soon as it trimmed up, little jab and we were away. And that was by feeding 2 lots of pellets twice and then stopping feeding. So slowly we're just starting to work out now how is the best way to catch them. So I'll keep on this for a little bit, and it might be a case of even popping that little pot back on, sprinkling my 4s. So I've got a nice pile of 4 mils on the bottom and then pinging a few over the top as well. But we'll see. That feels like a nice fish. It's carp. Oh yeah, fat one. So I got, like, you can see the grey hydro there. I'm not like pulling his head off. He's under control and he's in the pan. Look at him, look. It's another big one. It's the golden one. Oh, look. That's lovely, that is. Good shot, baby. There we go. Again, almost straight away on the settle that time. So lifted it out a foot, 18 inch maybe, lowered it back in. Little fast dink. And we got another carp on. A bit smaller this one, still nice. Little fun size one. There we go. So we've got a couple on this rig now. So what I'm thinking to finish off on is I still don't think even this is the right way of catching them today. Like that, just with the cup didn't seem right, and this don't even seem right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tinker with my other rig, fish with a little pot and ping a few, and see if that brings an even better, response. Because even though we're catching a few on each method, it's not as quick as I think what it should be. So I'm just going to redo that with the rig. I'll show you the rig and then we'll try that for a bit. Right, so I've poshed with the rig. So what I've done, I've got our 0.4 rig on. I feel like that other rig might have been even a little bit too light. So what I've done is I've reverse tapered these 9s now. So there's 3 quite close together there. And then again, same old, get further and further away. I put a 5-inch hook length on. So I've got a little bit of a longer hook length. So this will be like a little bit of a hybrid rig between the two. So you'll still be able to fish it nice over a tight pile of bait, but you still have that nice drop. When I want to lift and drop the rig, I've still got a nice fall of the pellets, which seems to be the way to catch them. But it'll fish a little bit quicker for me than the lighter rig. So let's just try this. What I'm going to go back to, I've got my little pot back on. And I'm going to fill that with 4 mils, rattle them in like we did earlier on. And then every now and then it's going to ping an odd 6 mil just to get a little bit more traction. See if this is the way to catch them. So I filled my little pot up. I'm just going to dunk it, stop anything bouncing out. I feel like they definitely come into bait. They want some bait. So this full I think is about right. Combine that with pinging a few pellets over the top, and we should be on something here. So I'll ship out to my marker again, and then from about 3 foot above the surface, like earlier on, I just want to track as many fish in as I can. So just sprinkle all them in. And with this rig now, I can still fish how we did before, flick it out. Because I've got that little reverse tape, I'll still get a nice little drop on my pellets. And it's just a case of every now and then, when I feel like I need a bit more attraction, I'll just ping an odd 6 mil over the top again. But again, I'll still be looking to lift and drop this rig quite regular. Because we've got that more strung out shotting pattern now, I should get a nicer drop on it, rather than just with a bulk and one. There you are, instant, look at that. How quick was that? And that's what it's about, it's just about making little changes. If you think something's right, try it, it's not going to hurt. Normally, if your gut is telling you it's right, normally it is right. So that fish took literally 30 seconds to catch that one. Whereas on the other 2 rigs, we've been waiting, a little bit long, well, a fair bit longer to be honest. So hopefully we're on to something now. This is the way to catch them. And we can finish the session with a nice little flurry. Oh yeah, nice mirror this time. There it is. Nicely hooked as well. Right in the corner of the mouth. Pop him back. It's just going to be a case of doing the exact same thing again now. We're just going to pick out a nice... These 6 mils are mainline cells, so they're like, you get a few longer ones and a few nice stubby ones, and I quite like these little short, compact, fat ones. Put them on. And then again, just fill my pot up, shake them in. Little dunk. And then just take your time shipping out. Don't want them bouncing out all the way till you get to your swim. Take your time, nice and smooth. In line with my marker. Just shake them in. I just want to do the same thing right every single time I go in. I don't want to spill my pellets everywhere. I want to make sure I lay my rig in properly every time. So I lift my pole out, flick it out, nice straight line, and then just hold on to that for a second. I don't need to ping any pellets quite yet. I'll let this rig settle for a second. float is dotted down to a tiny little pimple there. So I'll just let that sit there for 20 or 30 seconds now. And then I'll just give it a nice lift and drop, you know, lift it out a foot to 18 inches. You are lifting it out now. Lay it back in. Oh, little dink there. So I'll lift my rig completely out now this time. Flick it in. And now I'll look to just ping a few pellets over it. That. Oh, little dink again. There's definitely some fish coming into the peg now. As long as you've got indications of fish in your peg, you can work it out. Just when you're sitting there for a long period of time with no signs is when it's hard to, you know. Oh, look at that again. Just lay that rig back in. When you're sitting there for a long period of time, nothing's happening. That's when it's, you know, hard to know what you're doing is right or wrong then. But now we've got a few fish in our peg. So I'm hoping there'll be a nice little run just to finish the session off now. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fish there now. That's another one there, just lifting and dropping. Just with that little cut now, combined with loose feeding, and this like sort of hybrid rig, is an absolute winner now. Indications, most drops in. Got that nice grey hydro, look, they're not running me everywhere. I see a lot of people like fishing for carp, are fishing too light of elastic. There's no need for it. You know, I've got a nice balanced tackle on. I don't want them running me everywhere. Calm in there. Hook perfectly in the top lip. A beautiful little dink that time. I think what we're going to do, we're going to make this the last fish because we've got a brilliant day, to be fair. Caught on 3 different rig presentations. We've caught using our little pot, we've caught loose feeding with a carty, and we've caught really well, which has probably been the best of the combination of the two. So just like today, if you think things could be better, and in your mind you're thinking, right, what if I'd done this and done that, I think that would be good. Don't be afraid to try it, because often the case, it's the way to do it. So sort of back yourself. If you think it's right, go for it, because you've got nothing to lose. You know, we were catching all right, but you know, on your sort of conventional ways of fishing. But there's always a way to catch even better. And when you're match fishing, or you're just pleasure fishing, obviously you want to get the most out of your day. So don't be afraid to like think outside the box, try different things. And the rewards can be nice fat carp just like our one. And that's probably the nicest one of the day, looking wise. Look at that, look. That is an absolute cracker. So I hope you've enjoyed that video, and you can take a few little bits away to put into your own fishing. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to give the page a little subscribe. It helps us grow massively, and then we can get out and do more, you know, tutorials, live matches and all that kind of stuff. Any other tutorials you'd like to see, put it in the comments. In the comment section, I can have a little look through, and then it'll just give me some nice ideas, get back out in the bank, and we can get some other nice bits of fishing done. So I'm going to carry on fishing for a couple of hours. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.